Hey folks, Michaela here. Good news! I just got my extension for my TIP. So I'm processing through deep irritation with the answers I got from AI on this and everybody else's input that was not correct, because it wasn't a thing. I went and got insurance this morning. Took the system a really long time to do, so that was a little nerve-wracking. But then drove to Limon and just went to Aduana and got my stuff extended. And when I came to the front desk lady with my question about extended 90 días, por favor, she's like, oh yeah, it's like a thing they do. This is not a problem. So, the bike was unnecessary, although it was fun for a little bit. Now I've got to sell it again. Trinity's on her way back to the States and getting ready for my next shift here. It's been raining for days and I'm a little ready to get out of the jungly swamp. Where I'm headed next is more mountainous. It's supposedly crisper, cleaner air. 60s to high 70s is the temperatures, and then 20 minutes from the beach, which goes back to beach weather on the Pacific side. So excited for that to happen. I'm ready to hit the road. I've also recently, I had a lot of things come up the past few weeks. If you've been following me, they've been a little rough. So there's been a lot of reality checking occurring through this Mercury retrograde around all the areas of my life, it seems. And period still has not started. I'm not pregnant, don't worry, but I'm thinking that we may have my first perimenopause, like actual, yeah, this is that kind of symptom. I could be wrong, maybe it's just the stress of everything, but this has never happened before, so, except when I was pregnant when I was 20. And so, okay, cool, that's what's happening. The timing of it really sucks, but here we are. So, also just tweaked my work schedule, which I think really needed to happen. Guys, I'm apparently in a pretty deep state of burnout, and I didn't necessarily realize it. I've kind of been in burnout most of my life, growing up in the home that I grew up in, with the caregivers that I had, and then the bullying in school, and then military, and then marriage and pregnant, marriage at 18, pregnant at 20, and then raising the kid alone throughout the rest, her life, and then moving into becoming a therapist in private practice around the time that she left, and then hitting the road for the, on this road trip and all the border crossings, all that. So apparently it's just my default to be burnt out, but now it's really impacting I am dreading going into work. And it's not that I dread my clients in any way, shape, or form. It's just the work itself and lack of inspiration, just in daily life, just a whole slew of symptoms that apparently, yeah, that's what it is. So I've been in nervous system triage for the past couple days, trying to not doom scroll. I haven't been on social media now. This is day 3, which is really helping. I feel like I need to be informed about what's going on, but I also can't do a good goddamn thing about it. So while I don't recommend that we all put on blinders, it is helping my system to not consume that information through doom scrolling, which is this constant information processing and threat surveillance that really just does a number to your system. For one day, I completely cut off my there's neighbors behind me. Cut off my TV viewing, which was helpful, but then I was, in my research, found that that's actually taxing my system too, because it requires willpower to do that. So yesterday I watched a couple movies. It just needed to be intentional. Today I took on this Aduana insurance TIP journey simply because it needed to happen. It's time to have it happen. My daughter brought me my new registration, which I didn't really even need since I'm already in the system. And made the drive and got it done. So thank God. But back to the, which way do I need to go here? Back to the, this thing with my work schedule. I was working 3 days a week, doing 7 sessions per day. I was in session 3 days a week. I still do admin stuff on other days, but I was actively in session 3 days a week, 7 hours on those days with an hour lunch in the middle. So I would do 4 sessions, lunch, and then 3. And that is a huge step down from where I originally started, because this is what they do to us in this industry. Oh man, what's happening here? When you're, particularly when you're a new therapist, until you're fully licensed, you have to do 3,000 hours of supervised therapy, which doesn't mean that I'm stopped here, I don't know what's going on, which doesn't mean that you are supervised in every session. It means that you meet with your supervisor for 1 hour a week, but you're working under their license. So at that point, in a lot of places, you're only paid at a half rate. So during that time, I was doing 5 days a week, 8 sessions a day, which is just insane. And I could feel, I had no memory. I had no, then I kind of knew I was burnt out. And from there, I started to step it down. And every step of the way, I felt like, wow, this is a really big step down. I'm taking a lot off my plate. This is fantastic. But then, I went down to 4 days a week, 8 a day, and then down to 4 days a week, 7 a day, and then down to 3 days a week, 7 a day. And so I've been stepping it down as I could afford to do so, but it's still too much. And the issue is the work that you're doing in session. It's this intense on that you don't really have to do even in conversation in real life or work otherwise. If you're working intensely on something, it requires some focus, but you usually have a break before that whole hour is up. And even if you lose focus, it doesn't impact a whole lot. You might have to regain your focus, but there are a few jobs where you losing focus for a second can cause damage. Now, this isn't necessarily life and death, like limb or surgery or anything like that, but it can still cause quite a bit of a rupture if you're not present on remembering details, also calculating their case history and potential pathology and dysfunction, and then also monitoring what you need to say next that's going to be useful, and make sure it isn't about you and that you're not projecting and all of these things. And it's fucking a lot. And then you add on to it, if you're a private practice, that you are responsible for bringing everybody in. Nobody else is gathering clients for you. Nobody else is guaranteeing that, hey, we'll cover your pay if something happens or whatever. You're solely pulling that in. So while it seems to me like the 21 sessions a week should be cakewalk, my system was disagreeing. So now I've pushed it out to 5 sessions a day, 4 days a week. And then I have moved it to where 2 days a week, because if I cut it down to 5 sessions a day, that either nixes out my morning people or my evening people. So what I've done is staggered them. So 2 days a week I'm working to where I'm in session that 5 o'clock hour, which is like gold for people. And then 2 days a week I'm in morning session, and I get out at 3 Central Time. So what that allows is, right now, every day I can still make it to see the sunset once I'm back on the Pacific side, which is extremely important to me. And then once the time change happens in the US, we don't time change here in Costa Rica, but right now we're on daylight savings, so Central Time is an hour ahead of me. And then once they fall back again, we will be on the same time. So instead of getting out at 4 every day, I'll be getting out, or at 5 every day, I'll be getting out at 6 with my clients, ending their session at 6 as well. So that means that I'll be mostly missing the sunset, because I do still have a 20-minute drive to the beach from where I'm going to stay. So what that equates to is that only 2 nights a week will I be missing the sunset. So kind of excited about that. My system is less dreading the whole, you know, I gotta, you know, grit through these next 3 days. And what I was really pushing for was, it was always made sense to me that we should have more days off than we work. And that's really what I was going for. It's similar to, I wanted to create a life where I never wake up to an alarm clock ever again. And I've got that, but now I wake up at 5 anyway. But at least not to an alarm clock. But it turns out that I was getting a bit bored. And I think that also stemmed from burnout. What my research was showing was that essentially I'm in such an intense situation for those 3 days that my 4 days off are just recovery now. It's not even like, my system has been so overloaded for so long, for such a sustained period of time, that those 4 hours or 4 days end up just being a crash, which is why I'm not really inspired to do things. I'm bored, that kind of thing. So now we're back to the 3 days off, which is fine, because I'm not traveling like I was either. That was the other, what made sense in my mind around having 4 days off, was so that I could travel. I'm not needing so much of that anymore. If I decide to go back to Mexico, I'm pretty sure that I'll just take a week off. And, you know, it would be kind of expensive to do that, but it would also get me through those countries faster and significantly reduce my stress loads. You know, well, depends on how you look at it, because now it'll be intensely stressful for a week versus intensely stressful a few days out of 2 weeks, and then anticipation the other days. But I can't tell if this behind me is a cop or just someone. It's really interesting here. You'd think in a country with this much rain that people would learn to drive with their lights on, but they don't, so you can't see them. And then shit like what's behind me now, you can't see it, but this looks like a police bike. It's not. It's just a dirt bike with these flashing crazy lights on it. That should be illegal. But here we are. So anyway, looking forward to the shift in the schedule, letting my nervous system recover right now. Got the TIP done, thank God. That's handled at least through the end of October. And then potentially like a border run if I'm going to stick around, or we get the hell out of Dodge and we go back to Mexico. I think I'll probably have more answers by then. So yeah, we'll see. So that's the update for now. I'm headed back. I gotta hit the grocery store, and then I'm going back to my little cocoon that I brought with me. I think I've shared this with you before, from Texas, and my research shows that this is actually a really perfect recovery for my system. Is a BodyLink amethyst filled far infrared heating pad. You can get it on Amazon if you want it. And then an amethyst filled weighted blanket, also available on Amazon. And I hate to promote Amazon, but remember guys, Mackenzie Scott is still tied to this, and she still donates oodles of her money to people. So buying from Amazon isn't solely a Jeff Bezos, you're destroying the world kind of thing. Although, you know, there's plenty of valid points for not using Amazon. But when you don't have it, anyway, and then I have a weighted body pillow. It's shorter. It's not the full length of a body pillow, but it's long enough and it's weighted, and so you put it on top of you. It feels like, you know. So anyways, apparently the heat is fantastic for reducing tension. The weighted blanket is creating physical boundaries for the body, so that helps you to feel, you know, cocooned and safe. And then the weighted body pillow, of course, adds to all that. So that's where I hibernate, and that's what I'm planning to do the rest of the day. And then hit my sessions tomorrow, and then hit the road here very soon. I'm also due a oil change, and in the city near the town, oh, that was close. The city near the town I'm moving to actually has a place. I'm so excited about this town because it's the most, like, it has the most accessibility out of everywhere I've been so far. Like these other, Fortuna, Limon, where I was in Mexico, all the places, including Oaxaca City, none of them had what this little town has. And not the one I'm living in, but the one, it's about 20 minutes. So I'm 20 minutes on one side of me is this inland town. The other side of me, 20 minutes, is the beach. And then I'm on a mountain ridge in between. So thrilled about that. And so apparently they have a shop, or more than one, shops that work on foreign European vehicles. So I will be getting my oil changed there. I almost had it done in Teleron and was just going to have somebody do it, but I'm really glad that now it might, it's probably going to cost what it would cost at one of these shops. You get one of these vehicles, and it's not just the cost of the vehicle, it's the cost of maintenance, the cost of the tires. Like, I need to change out my front 2 tires. I have, if you've been following my trip, there was a giant gash taken out of one of my sidewalls, which, as an aircraft mechanic, we're told any sidewall damage, it's done. In Mexico, they refused to give me a new tire, so they patched it, which actually that wasn't where the hole was. There was a screw somewhere else, and there's never been any air leaking from that gash. Okay, cool. And then on the roads in Teleron, I had a pretty big chunk of tread come off of that same tire, kind of on the edge, and it's still kind of flopping there, but it's like if the right rock gets in there that it might puncture the tire. So I've kind of been living on a prayer there with those tires. But guys, to change 2 tires is like $800. So, and I've been told this, and I know that just because you can afford the car payments doesn't necessarily mean that you can afford the vehicle. But this little car has been my dream car forever, and I don't really spend money on much else except housing. And so here we are, and student loans. But yeah, this is also why we don't jump to change the tires if they've got any life left in them. But all of that to say that the oil change might be a pretty penny, but the way things are lining up, that after my daughter's trip and after all these other things that I needed to cover, that it'll be fine. So I'm starting to see a little light at the end of the tunnel in several categories. We're still in Mercury retrograde. This has been the crunchiest one I've been in I don't know how long, maybe ever. And we also have the Cancer new moon tomorrow, which, I'm Pisces sun, Scorpio moon. I'm a water baby, so this is, hitting a lot of different areas of relationships and home and sense of security and all that. But, this TIP paperwork being done, my stay in Puerto Viejo coming to a close, my schedule getting rearranged to where I'm not burning myself out completely, and moving to some crisper, cooler air. In saying all that, I feel like I can breathe a little bit. So, all right, that's it for now. Talk soon, guys. Bye.